Hello, kings, queens, and in-betweens. This is Key of W with Islands of Insight, episode like 9,000. It's just so much. But I'm having a great time, and so you're gonna have a great time with me, yes? Uh, I think what I'm gonna do this time around is I'm just gonna head over to the the Archipelago of Curiosities. There's still a bunch more puzzles here. We're not gonna do all of them, but I'm gonna start by heading there, and then probably not spend the whole day there. Depends on how hard the puzzles are, and then come back. We might not do all of them, even though there's only 20 left or so. I expect they are difficult, so I don't think they're going to be like 20-second solves. I think it's going to take a while. I believe most of them are over here, but I'm going to double check. I don't have my save stats file open right now. I could do that to look, but I think there's enough puzzles here that I could feasibly figure it out. Well, I see the leitmotif there, so what is the deal with this one? Ooh, this is interesting. Oh. 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 I gotta be under the bridge over there. I gotta be looking. This is an interesting. No. No. Nice. I also heard an archway. And it's right there. Oh no, I died. Let's try that again. So the archway is... Oh, it's under me here. Neat. Are there any more leitmotifs like that? They're just hidden underneath? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. I did these puzzles here, but not all of them. There's a 5-star guy in there I can try. Maybe that's the big puzzle of the day, as I see if I can hit that 5-star bow. Let's try going in from the top of this puzzle. It's been a while, I don't remember if this is how you get there or not. I remember this maze being on the weirder side as far as how things were constructed. So I gotta get down. Get down with the sickness. Let me down. So it's under there. How do I get down lower? Okay, this is the direction I can go. What? Okay, no. No. This maze is maddening. Oh, there's more in here. There's this guy. 3 stars. Don't make dominoes. Don't make... Okay, so just singletons. No connection, not even diagonally. Alright then. This ought to be fun. Is this one going to be fun? I don't know if this one's going to be fun. This one doesn't look like it's going to be fun. If I were to connect this, though, let's start with this assumption. If I connect the 4 to the 5, we have this problem. So this 4 cannot connect to the 5, and the 5 cannot connect to the 4. In fact, I can't have any diagonal. So if I were to have this go, I couldn't... I would have to go in 3 right? If I were to say just go in 2 directions, I could do it this way. This is fine. But I can't just have it be a corner, because then we have a corner like so. Well, there has to be one in here somewhere. And no matter which one of these it is, these are going to have to be light cells. That much is assured. Huh. 5 cannot connect to 6 because it'll overload. So that's fine. There's going to be at least one in here. There's going to be at least one in here. What if there isn't a dark cell up here? If there isn't a dark cell here, we can't have a light cell on either side of this. So if there isn't a dark cell here, then if I have this, if I make this 4 work with either side, I have a diagonal. So I have to make the 4 like this. This would force the 5 in this position. Oh, we would be forcing quite a few moves here. That's if I don't put a dark cell here. Now, there has to be a dark cell there to avoid Is that right? No, there should just be one here. It's fine. The 9 now. 7 can work up just fine. There has to be a dark cell in here. Are there any other, like, gimmies if I do this? Ah, that would be complete, and the 6 would be complete. So these would be complete, and this line would be complete. What else could I could take this, but then we would have to have a corner here, so this would be a dark cell. And these would be complete. Would complete that line. Am I just guessing everything correctly? Because that could be happening here. There would have to be a dark cell here. And here. So that is, in fact, a dark cell. There's 2 here. There's 1 there. Means that has to be. That's done. That's done. Huh. Either here or both of these. Doesn't help me yet. One of these 2 doesn't help me. If this is it... No, don't do that. Don't guess right now. If this is a dark... no. If this is it... we force this motion. Which does force us... You know what? I feel like I just guessed my way into that. But it was logical, but instead of making a logical inference and then finding what was the wrong answer, I just went until I had the right answer, I guess. Oh dear. Okay, we might be spending all day. Same rules, no dominoes, no diagonals, just all singletons. And we make 3s everywhere. Jeez, okay. So, here's the thing about this 2. If I move the 2 over, we have a diagonal. The 2 has to come down. This is forced. So we have to start with this move at the top with this little skull shape. This 4 can no longer move to the right because it'll overload. Now, we could move out or we could move down. So there's going to be a dark cell either here or here, which means these are white cells. And there's going to be a dark cell either here or here, meaning those are white cells. Cool? Got it so far? We're good. Either one of these would finish off the 5. If we finish off the 5 with either of these, we have a diagonal. We can't have that. So both of these have to be dark cells. So this is done, meaning, yeah, these cells are handled. 3... No matter what, this has to be a light cell. Okay. So this gives me a start, but now I still have a ton more I'd have to figure out. It's not the end. The question now is, do we block it here and make that a light cell, or do we make this a dark cell? Oh, okay, hold on. One of these 2 is a dark cell no matter what, which means we have to mark light cells here. Let's at least start with that. Now the 7... can't extend all the way up, so one of these 2 is a dark cell. Doesn't help me much because we can still extend quite a bit in any other direction. Let's see. 9. Is there anything I can glean from this? The 9 certainly can't go all the way down there. So no matter what, we have to stop here at the very minimum. There's gonna be 1 dark cell between these minimum. But there's 3 total. I've got to have 1 dark cell up here as well. Hold on. If the 9 connects here, there can still be a dark cell over here. We still wouldn't have a problem. Let's say it doesn't. The 9 doesn't connect there. If this is what happens, we're forced... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9. We're forced to go at least that far down. We're also forced to end this. So actually we're forced to do all of that if we make this a dark cell. This is what I'm hinging everything on right here. now, how do I handle it? The 6, if it went out here, the 6 can't connect to this place because then we would have diagonals. So there's a dark cell in this spot, meaning those would be light. The 7 could connect, but it doesn't have to. And of course there's at least one in there. Where do we go from here? One of these 3 is dark, but it doesn't matter which one right now. So this gets me a few cells I like, but I still don't know if that's dark. I don't know for sure. So this is still in guess land. I'm still just kind of guessing and seeing what I get, which I don't really like doing. Any other things I can pick up from here? Now, if 6 were to connect to here, all the way up, without another dark cell in between, we would be forced to take at the bottom, because otherwise we'd have a diagonal, which would force these moves. Which doesn't immediately help. It would mean we can't do this. We would have to have a dark cell. This does feel like a terrible way. So we'd have to have one here, meaning these would have to connect. One of these. So one of these is dark and one of these is dark. If we force this move, meaning the 5 can't connect here, and the 7 has to connect there. The 9 cannot be here because then it would overload wherever it went elsewhere, so we would end up finishing this off. And that's a problem. Okay, so the assumption I made for this went all the way back to the 6 connecting all the way up without a dark cell in between. So there has to be one here in this spot. No matter where it is, it would force white cells there. This, again, this can't be. It can't go this far out. So this, if this is a dark cell, we'd have a second one. There's one up here, but I don't know where it is, and it doesn't matter yet, because it doesn't affect anything until I get up to these 3s. Oh, there has to be 2 here if I've set it up this way? Oh, dear. Okay, so I have 6. I can't connect both here, so one of those is a dark cell. 6 out of that 7, 8. This has to go down at least once. One of these is dark. If this is a dark cell, we have a white here, but if this is a light cell, we don't have anything there. One of these is going to be dark, so only one of these is a dark cell. Now, if this were a dark cell, because there has to be one up here as well, we would overload. So it would force this to be a light cell. Which forces this to be a light cell, right? No, because we could have 2 light cells like that. The 7 can still connect this way. The 9 can still go 2 spaces down. This would be an issue for the 7, I think. Only 1 space in here. Again, we're still hinging on a guess, and I feel like that's a really, really risky way to do this puzzle, because I could end up getting in such a dead-end position I don't even know where to go to progress. That's as far as that goes. So if this were a dark cell, we'd have to have another one over here, which is fine, because we could have 2 dark cells here, 1 in here, and then connect to 7, like so. Is there a world where that's a dark cell? Yes. It would force that one. But yes. Any other... Like, this stuff down here I'm not sure what to do with yet. These can't connect, so there's obviously got to be at least one in between the 6 and the 7. How far up can this 5 go? That's about as far up as it can go. But it can't be a straight line out like this. It has to be more like that to prevent diagonals. So the 5 can't ever connect up this far. There has to be a dark cell somewhere in here and somewhere in here. So 2 dark cells are between the 9 and the 5. And then there has to be a dark cell down here, I think. I think this is not possible to do with only 1 dark cell, right? With only 1 in here. No, it is. Here's how no, hold on. It would have to be this way, and then we would have to fill it in. That is possible. Okay. I was just looking at it like, can I force a dark cell down here? Because then I would know this is a light cell, because there's 2 here and there's 1 there. Again, this is all hinging on this being a dark cell right here. That's the guess. What's the difference between these two? I don't know. What is this guy? This one doesn't seem to matter at the moment. It's just a matter of how we count the 3s here. So I know there's 2 in this spot. I know there's 1 in this spot and at least 1 in this spot. Is there any way to only get 1 in this spot? Because we can't bring this out this far. If there was only 1, because we're going to have diagonal. So this is the furthest out we could bring that, which is fine. We can just do this. Between the 5 and the 8, how many do we have? We might have only 1 dark cell. Well, there has to be one of these 2 as a dark cell, which means that if we didn't have another one here and it was down there, we'd bring this up at least this far. Just fine. Is there a way to have both? Yes, there is a way to have both. We can just do it like this. Doesn't really help me. It's possible all 3 dark cells are between the 8 and the 5 on this side. Between the 6 and the 7 is at least 1. We don't know much else. There has to be only 1 here. This is the furthest up it can go. If I did this, though, would we run into trouble? We'd run into trouble here, so we'd force this move. This couldn't be white if we did this. Again, we're just guessing that's a dark cell. So now we have 2 guesses on the board, which is risky. This will have to be dark cell, because if it's not, we'd have to force diagonals, which means these are now forced. 7 could only go up. There has to be 2 dark cells in this spot alone. That's interesting. On this case, it's fine. We could bring this all the way out. Could also bring this all. One of these would have to go all the way out. The only way to do 2 here. There can't be 1 here, so this is the only way. If we have it like so, this is our only way to do 7. Meaning there is at least 1 here. We have to bring the 6 up 1 space. I mean, so far the guesses are working, but at some point I'm going to reach a spot on this puzzle that's too complicated and I won't have the answer for you. Dear. I like this one, but it is hurting my brain. I don't understand it. I feel like I'm making very, very unwise choices. So this has to be a dark cell now. And we know there's 2 dark cells in the middle here, so this is solved for us. That's how it's going to be. This 9 can only go down 1 more space, so the dark cell is somewhere in there. That forces the 7 to connect here. Can't connect there. So the 7 now, it can connect 1 more space over, so it has to go up at least 1 spot, which means, actually if there's a dark cell here, it has to go up 2 spots. So now we forced these moves. Okay, that's now forced. So it's, again, it's still working. That's the thing, is it's still working as a puzzle. But it is scary because I do not feel confident with these choices, and backtracking is going to be a huge pain on this one. So 3. I can bring this up 2 more spaces from the 6, but I can't go 3 spaces, so it does have to go to the left at least once. The 7 can still... can't go out that far. We have to have 2 dark cells between these. The furthest this could go would be here, which would force 2 dark cells like that. If I had a dark cell here, I don't know. I don't know. There's 1 in this spot, so these have to be light cells no matter what. Furthest out this can go is here. But, there's only 1 dark cell. I have to fit 3 dark cells in this spot. 1 dark cell here. Yeah, we already know those are light cells. This has to be a dark cell. That has to be a dark cell. Okay. Meaning this is the dark cell. According to the logic I have provided myself, this is how it works. Okay, I haven't decided that one yet. One of these still haven't got the answer to that. Don't think we can have both of these be dark cells because that would overload the 6, which means that's a dark cell over here. And that means I don't think we can overload this. Yes, that means this is also a dark cell, meaning that row is now complete. 5 out of 14. Dark cell is one of these 2. Okay, that means that's a light cell here. According to all my guesses. The 6 is complete. This is all complete. Really don't feel good about this. This can go up only 1 more space, which would make 5, so 6 and 7 have to come down. So one of these 2 is a dark cell. One of these 2, that's a dark cell. That's light, that's dark, these are light, that's dark, that's dark. Aha! We now have a contradiction. All the way over here. So how do we go back and solve for this? Because where was the guess that everything was pinned on? I believe the guess that everything was pinned on... Come on. Everything the guess is... Okay, it's even further back. Even further back. Is this spot. That has to be a light cell. According to all of this guesstimation, this has to be a light cell. That's what we got out of that. Isn't that so great? Now I have to start all over from here. Again, assuming that this dark cell is in fact the correct spot. So what can I logic my way into here? Do I still believe there are 2 dark cells here? Yes. Is it still possible here? This would have to be a light cell. If we don't have a dark cell down here, and we have it up here instead, this would have to be a light cell. We would force ourselves to do this. And that. This is just a guess, again, starting with this motion. All light cells down here, dark cell here. One of these 3, so that's going to force a light cell there. This would have to be a light cell. One of these 2 is dark. One of these 2 is dark. Meaning one of these 4 is dark. Doesn't help me. Actually, these... Yeah, this would actually be solved here. It's pretty similar to what I have before. There has to be at least 1 dark cell going this direction. Not sure which one. There could be 2. Again, the furthest this could go is there. Hold on, there has to be 3, so one of those 2 is dark, and that one is dark, meaning these are all light. Haha! This is also a contradiction. So, one of these 3 must be dark. Those are light now. 2 of these must be dark. That is a light cell up here. That's got to be. Provided, again, this is a dark cell. Does this 7 have to go? Well, one of these two is dark, is that right? Yes, because we can only go one more down here at most. So if one of these two is a dark cell, these are now all light cells. This can't be a dark cell. It could. It could be a dark cell. We could still have that. But for sure, one of those two. Now with the 7, can it connect up here? If it does connect up here, this would have to be a dark. We'd have to do this and bring it down, which would be a problem, I think, because we would now have a diagonal. So that means that's a dark cell, which means that's a dark cell, which means that's a dark cell, according to this logic. So it's actually similar to what we had before. We did have this shape over here beforehand. We just didn't have it complete like this. Now, if this connects up here, we're going to have diagonals all over the place. So this has to be our second one. And then now with 3, the most we can do is that. So dark cell in one of those 3. That doesn't tell us anything new. We already knew that. One of these 3 has to be a dark cell. So those are light cells, provided I have guessed correctly so far. All 3 dark cells have been here. At least 1 dark cell in here, possibly 2. One of these is dark, which means only one of these is dark. Okay. 2 of these are dark for sure. It'd be really funny if this actually needs to be a light cell, this one up here that I'm basing the whole guess on, because it would be like I have to start the whole thing over. Oh no. That has to be dark because that's going to fill in. So only 1 more dark cell among all this column. Any other columns that could use? Rows, not so much. One of these 2. And this row is a lot of contenders. This row does as well. This row only has 1 more spot for a dark cell. 2 more. This still has all 3. Yeah, this corner's got nothing going on. 1 of these guys. Well, if I brought this out all the way, don't know if I like that, because I do have to force these moves. Does that work? Kind of works. That can't go all the way over because of that. I actually know that there's not a dark cell to the right of the 5, so there's at least 2 between the 8 and the 5 here. Potentially a dark cell here, but it's possible all 3 are between. Now, if I were to bring this down, for instance, we would force a motion here and there. This doesn't seem to answer any questions for me, though. That actually would be filled in, too. Well, there's only 1 dark cell here. It couldn't be this one. Actually, let's go back a bit. Instead of guessing at this particular spot, look at this. 1 dark cell is going to be there, because we can't overload. And we can't overload here. Only 1. If the dark cell's here, we're going to overload the 6. So that's a light cell. The dark cell's here, we're going to have a diagonal. So that is also a light cell. So now one of those 2 is dark. There we go. Which means if we had this extend all the way down like so, this has to extend 1 over. It means one of those. The 5 would have to end here, and the 7 is going to be overloaded. So this cannot be the dark cell. That has to be a light cell. One of these 2 is dark, which means we move over at least once. Means one of those 2 is a dark cell. We can't do this, I don't think. Have we solved anything else? This can no longer be the dark cell, because we'll overload the 6. No, we wouldn't. We would be fine. One of these 3 has to be dark cell. Man, I'm so stupid. What's going on here? There's definitely a dark cell in here. There's probably one in there as well. If this were the dark cell, let's just make another guess. If this is the dark cell, there's a dark cell in here, which means there has to be one there. 6. There has to be one here. We're overloading. Haha! That answers the question of this 5. What am I doing? This is done. This 5 has to extend all the way. Is this a good spot? For if we did this, it doesn't do much. For sure we can't have it like this, because we would end up with a diagonal, but it doesn't tell me a whole lot. For we can only move over 2 more spaces here, so there's a dark cell in there somewhere. That's a light cell. If this is a light cell, we end up with the troubles. So, the troubles. Not the actual troubles. We would have to... no. So far, it's working. Tentatively. Very tentatively. Okay. Very, very tentatively. Not confident in this at all. This would require a diagonal, so we'd have a dark cell there. One of these 3 is dark, so there you go. Which means this would have to extend up at least once. One of those 2 is dark. Can one of those be dark cells? Maybe. Huh. Not confident in any of this. Oh my goodness. Because I feel like I guessed down here. I know this is a white one, but it could be that there's a dark cell here instead. Did I get anything else out? 5 out of 16. So one of these 2 is dark and one of those 2 is dark, which means we have to fill in these other cells. This has to be a light cell now. One of those 2, one of these 2. Those are all mutually exclusive. One of those 3. 2 of these. So anyway, that's a dark cell. Yeah, seems fine. I have to get 3 in this spot. Could I do it, these 3 being light? Yes. It would be awkward as heck. One of these 3 is dark. One of these 2 is dark, means that's a light cell. If one of these 2... 3 dark cells in here. 2 dark cells in here. 1 has to be dark here. 2 have to be dark in here. Is there any way these are both light? No. So there's a dark cell of one of these 2 and one of these 2. So the rest is between these 4. How about here? Is there any way both of these are light? No. There's a dark cell in here. And then the other 2 are in these 5. Now the 8... Where can you connect, good old buddy? Okay, doing this... Actually, if I had this one here, if I just guessed at this point, we would force the 6 to come up like so, which would force the 7 to go straight up and down, which would cause a problem. Because the 7 now is going to overload no matter where we put it. It can only move up 1 space there. So anything I do is going to overload. So that at least solves this little section. It still could be wrong because, oops, because I still could have guessed wrong somewhere else. This would overload. We're now done with the 8. So the 7's going to overload if I bring anything out this way. This is good. The 7 probably needs to come out. It's got to come out at least this far. No! Okay, where's the last guess we made? Haha. Was here. This is such terrible playing by me. But I'm just confused by this one. It's very hard. I'm really struggling to get the logic of this one down. So that is going to finish off the 3 here. So this needs to do a little something. One of those 2 is dark, so we have to fill those in light. And that's got to be dark. Here we go. Here we go. This should be the correct solution that doesn't cause problems for me later. How long have I been? I spent like 5 minutes setting this episode up. I've been here for 30 minutes. One of those 2, yeah, these are going to be done like so. So that is pretty set. Again, all hinging on this guess. Which is, you know, a load-bearing guess. Oh dear, dear me. For one of those 3, so those are light. Also, one of these 3 is dark, so those are light. One is 2. So any other spots? The 3's here. One of these. 2 are in here. They're probably not going to be both of these, because we'll overload. Therefore, this is a dark cell. Logic. That'll overload. So this has to be like so, in order for this to all work out. Oh dear. Oh dear. Yep. So, I've logicked my way into this guess being unreasonable. So no matter what, this is wrong. So is this a dark cell? Because if it is a dark cell, yes, they both can't be light. Neither of them can be dark. So, we're going to be walking back quite a bit of work here. And reworking our way up. Isn't this fun? Don't you like this? What am I doing down here? What is this? What is this? I'm resetting progress. What is all this guesswork? See, this is why you shouldn't solve puzzles like I do. Oh, I can't undo anymore. I literally have undone way beyond. So I don't remember where the guess started from. So let's take this back to the beginning again. This is required. This is required. We can't have... We can have this or that. Those are forced. These are forced. Now the 5s can't ever be either of those, so those are both dark cells. We know that much. So we're back to this spot. This is where we definitely are. Now the guess I made was this being a dark cell. Let's walk that back a bit. There has to be at least one dark cell in here. Now if there was only one dark cell in here... Actually, tell you what. Let's make a version where there's no dark cell down here. Let's start over down with this corner instead of up here. Let's make a version where there's no dark cell down at the bottom. This is going to be our forced move. If we decide to go this route. Excellent. We're getting started. There's going to be another one here probably rather than 2 dark cells at the top. Now the 6 can go up all the way, but it's unlikely. There has to be at least one dark cell between these. Actually, yeah, if this connects, we'd have 2 dark cells there, but it is possible to... Well, it wouldn't be this, though. To have 2 dark cells up here. Like... This is fine. Down here, though, how would we handle this? 5 is settled. Oh, there can only be 1 dark cell in this whole row. And that would overload. That would overload. This would be fine. anything in this area would be a fine place to put a dark cell. Now between these... If I went this far, it didn't mean much. Like, having both dark cells up here would really be a struggle. Yeah. So that means this cannot connect. There'd be one more dark cell in here, at least. So the furthest this could go would be down to the 4. Can this connect this far? Not really. We would be forced to make this move if it connected, which is probably bad. Yeah, this is bad. So, there has to be a dark cell in here, and a dark cell in here. So the furthest these could go, 7. So that is now a required spot. Great, I got 1. And again, this is contingent on this guess. Dear. 7. How are we going to make this one work out? Furthest I can go is here, but I could still put 2 dark cells in this spot. It's fine. I can still do that. How about the furthest up this can go? 5, 7, 8. So we do have 1 going down. And then if I ignore this... No. Is there any way to avoid this? No. So these are required for sure. These would be light cells. These would be light cells. These would be light cells. So if I have this... Both of these can't... Well, actually, one of those has to be dark just because of the way this whole thing works out. Again, this is the guess that ruined the world. So it's probably not true? I don't know. If this is a dark cell... Well, I gotta have at least 1 up in here. 5. That's as far as we can go here. As far as we can go there means dark cell's one of these 3 for sure. There could be this case, because we don't know about this section down here. I feel like this is the wrong choice. I'm trying to find a contradiction in this choice to force a dark cell under the 5. This does make a really difficult 1 dark cell in this area, though. That does really put a strain on my puzzle solving. It's gonna be a couple dark cells here. Is there any way this is a dark cell? This would be an interesting place to put it. Ooh, this would be bad. So, yeah, okay, that's a light cell. That has to be. Now, this would automatically make a 9. This would force cells down here. If we made the 9 here, are we gonna run into trouble again? 6, 17. Yeah, we're gonna run into trouble again. So yeah, we're gonna go back to our assumption with the 5. And we're gonna rule that out. Isn't this fun? 40 minutes down. Okay, hold on, get rid of these. Okay, keep going back. So, there has to be a dark cell in here. At least 1. There has to be at least 1 in here. Is there any way there is only 1? The furthest this can go up is this far. If we go any further than that, we have diagonals. The furthest we can go is here. So, it is definitely possible to only fit 1 dark cell in here. Now, if there's no dark cell up here now, we put 2 in this area. It's harder for me to tell what to do here. There has to be 2 in this area. Must be at least one here. We would have at least one going down. Does that tell me anything? Not really. There's a dark cell here. What do I do with these? I can always guess which one is the dark cell on this bottom row. Like guessing this doesn't really help me. Now, if I say this is a light cell, it doesn't really do much for me. Again, making this a dark cell forces quite a lot down, and it causes problems later on down the road that I can't get rid of. So if we decide instead... These are... Hold on. This is one of those two is dark, so... Is that right? No, it can be like that. One of those three is dark. Is it possible for both of these to be light? Yeah. That has to be a light. Okay, so... Then, yeah, then one of those two is dark, and then one of these two is dark. So we do still have this. Now, a straight line on the 7 is going to force... 5, 6, 7. Is going to force down at least this far if we did a straight line. It could go here, or it could go there. But it would also force a particularly bad arrangement here that I don't think is good. So that means the 7 does have to extend at least once in this direction. The furthest it can extend is out here. Furthest it can extend this way is down these 3. Now if we made this one the dark cell, what are we getting from that? That's dark, and we're... So I think what we get from this is something I should have known a while ago. If this is a dark cell, we're going to end up with a problem. So that has to be the dark cell. And then this is the dark cell. 6 out of 7. So one of those two is dark, and one of these two is dark. Alright. I think this is a required moment. I probably should have looked over here first, because now I feel like a dummy. There's going to be at least one more dark cell here. I want to finish this soon so I can have breakfast. It is early in the morning as I'm recording this particular episode. There's got to be one more dark cell along here. Now, I could connect it and make this be the dark cell, but that feels really stupid. Oops. It feels like there's going to be one in here, but I don't know about that. This 8, is there any way I have the dark cell here? It would require a bit of finagling here. Oops. That's if we force the dark cell there. That's just a guess. The 5's never going to connect there. There's another dark cell here. There's one in this. I have to get 3 dark cells here. This is rough. Oops. This is really rough. I don't like how this is shaping up with this guess. Because now I only have space for 1 dark cell. It's certainly got to be in there, so that's now a light cell. This is bad, so now we have to fill these in here. So there's only 1 dark cell down here, and it's got to be one of these 4. So those are all light cells. That now is the dark cell, because there has to be one in here. These are light cells. 7 can't connect all the way here, so no, still don't know. Man, this feels bad. Like, this feels like I'm running into trouble because there's too much concentrated down there. There's got to be at least 1 dark cell in here, so that's a light cell. 1 dark cell in this line. Only 1 this entire line. 3 in this line. I need 2 dark cells in here. I need 2 dark... Oh, just 1 dark cell here. 1 in here. Those have to be light cells. Yeah, this all hinges on this guess now. So I haven't learned my lesson. I'm still guessing. 2 dark cells in there. 2 in here. All 3 have to happen here. 2 of them have to happen here. Jeez. How about column-wise? Is there still a way to do this? Yeah, there's still a way to connect that. 2 of them here. All 3. All 3. Yeah. And I don't have a clear path forward here. I could extend this all the way up and do this. But I can't have the dark cell be here because someone's trying to reach me on my phone. They've been trying to reach me for a bit. And I'm going to say no because I'm busy doing something very important. This can't be where the dark cell goes because either way we're going to overload. So I think that has to be a light cell. So this could be, that could be. We could also connect all of this just fine. We could connect to here. Anyway, both of these are light. Yes. This is how both of those are light. And this is scary. You don't like this at all. So no to that. So that's not a dark cell. That's a light cell. One of those is dark. There you go. One of these is dark. There you go. There. Dear me. This probably is not the dark cell. Because now we're in trouble here, I think. I need 3 or 2 more. 1 more there. I don't really like this setup that I've invented here. Oop. This would certainly be a problematic setup. No, it just seems to work. Until it doesn't. Then it just magically stops working. This is really terrible. Kids, don't be like me. Having both of these here is certainly a choice, but it's probably the wrong one. At least one isn't here. At least one isn't here. That would have to be blocked. That would force all of this to be light cells. That can only go that far, which means we have to move up at least once. Whoo boy! Not a fan of how I am solving this. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, it seems to be fine. Well, could there be 2? There could be something like that. If we put a light cell here, we'd have to put a dark cell here. Which means we would be forced to light cell these. And these. Which would be a problem. So therefore, in this guess world, this has to be a dark cell. And then we would have to make this really uncomfortably close together. Holy crap, this can't possibly work. The fact that it's working so far, it makes me nervous, because when it stops working, I will have too much to undo. This will be a ridiculous fix. There can't be 3 here, so this would have to be the 1. Oh, dear me. This is a nightmare. There's no way to make this, because no matter what 2 I put here, we're going to fill this in. So, going all the way back to just guess world, guesstimate land was, I believe, the 8. So taking it all the way back. to here. There's got to be a cell there. So the 8 has to connect up this way. Go 6 and go. That means these are light cells. Where do we go from here? It won't be all 3. So it could be 1, 2, 3. Trying to figure something out there. 6. There's got to be 1 here, and then there's going to be 1 in this area. Not helpful. At least 1 in here, but there's potential for 2. I need to finish this because I'll feel very embarrassed if I play this puzzle for 1 hour and don't finish the puzzle and just leave it. The whole video is one puzzle that I don't solve. That would make me feel embarrassed. Is this as lightning? This for sure was guaranteed. These were guaranteed. So I needed to put a light cell there, which is... Okay, I am correct so far. So anyway, that's a dark cell. Because if this is a dark cell, this has to be. Which would force this. This feels wrong, because it's just... I feel like I don't want to put them too close together. Like, it's going to cause problems if I do that. There has to be a dark cell in there. There has to be at least 1 in here. At least 1 up there. If I were to not put dark cells in this spot, I would be forced to make this choice. Now, is this choice a good one? It's risky because this is all forced. I could not bring this up, so these would be... One of these would be dark. One of each of these would be dark, so we would have light cells here, which means that would be forced to be a dark cell, and we'd have a dark cell down here. So, this is now forced. Hoo boy. This is if we make these all light cells. Put 2 dark cells underneath the 6. Certainly doing things. This can't be it for sure. That means there is a dark cell up here, which is going to force these. Any other, like, gimmies here? Cells here. I need all 3 cells down here. This was a light cell. We'd have to do dark cells like this, which is going to be a problem, which would force this to be a dark cell, forcing that to be a light cell. Forcing these all to be light cells. Ooh, don't know if I like this. Forcing these both. Okay, we're over the line. So, let's head back to this. Actually, let's just look at this set. If this is a light cell, we're overloaded. This is a dark cell. These, because there has to be dark cells in here, that's overloaded. And then I would need... Yeah, there's no way. So, hold on a second. This would have to be a dark cell. But we already established we can't do that. But everything else up to this point has been ironclad logic. It hasn't been guesswork. So did I make a guess in this position that I shouldn't have made? It has to go out that far. In fact, it... Because that would feel bad. Yeah, that can't be right either. Oh no! What did I do? Do I have to start over? Okay, again. Just because I don't know where the undo. This is the only move. This is the only move. Then these can never be dark cells, because one of these two is dark, it's always going to reach those two. These can never be dark cells. Because of this, these can never be light cells. There. And because of that, one of those two, so we have this, one of these two must be. So if this is the dark cell, if this was the dark cell, we'd have that. So this must be a light cell. So here is we know these things. So this obviously brings a problem because we end up overloading. We would need these to all be here. We would need these to be filled in. We would need... Oh, actually, so far it's working. I did something wrong earlier. That maybe gets corrected now. That has to be... It can't be. This has to be a dark cell. We're back to where we were before, and we ended up in trouble doing this. We were under arrest. Seven can go out this far. Nah, it can't connect out that far. There has to be a dark cell in here. Because if there isn't, we have diagonals. Therefore, those are all light cells. There's got to be a dark cell in here somewhere. I just don't see any way we can make it without the dark cell. The 5 could go out this way. There can only be one more dark cell in here. These have to be light cells. There's your dark cell. I just don't see any way this is not a dark cell. So maybe this is the guess that goes wrong. So these are light cells here because of the way the dark cells are going to have to go. Anyway, that's a dark cell. Yes. Cells in here. We've got 2 to do. They could. I feel like this was the wrong guess if I made these 3. Because then we would have to do this, which would really be tricky. This is really tricky. Oops. To solve. Yeah, this is rough, but it's so far not killing me. Is it possible for both these to be? I guess so. That would have to be. This would cause a diagonal, so that's got to be dark, which means those are complete. Because that's complete, and so far, nothing is broken, except this, because no matter what I do here, I'm going to fill in these spots. So, the guess I made now was with these 3. There's a dark cell in there somewhere. I mean, there's only one dark cell here. Could it be here? This would certainly be a possibility. No. It's not that one. Okay. Is it this one? Ooh boy. Uncomfortable with this setup. And there still has to be one here, which means these will all be filled in. That can't be it. Discomfort. One is here, 2 are in here, so there's no way there's anything there. That means that's connected. That can't be. That's actually done. That's the furthest the 7 can go, so it will go up at least 1. Means there's 2 in here, meaning there's nothing there. This guess so far isn't killing me, but I don't think it's good. 1, 2, 3. That one's done. This has to be here. Has to be one of them in there. 2 in this spot doesn't tell me much yet. Could this be it? Could this finally be the solution I've been long awaiting? That's got to be a light cell. Could this be? Yeah, this can be a light cell just fine. There's 2 more in this spot. 1 more. 2 more. 1 of these 2. If this was the light cell right here, we're going to have... it seems like we're going to force a bunch of stuff that may or may not be useful. But it doesn't answer the question. I'm trying to find an obvious... This is the dark cell. So far it's not broken. What's happening? One of these 4. One of those 2. Okay, if this was the dark cell, we would overload. So this is a light cell. Now, one of those has to be. You can reach that far. We have 4. We have 7. Oh, it has to go all the way up, which means we'd have to make this one. Ooh boy! Ooh boy! This is scary. Is this it? Have I done it? I'm genuinely feeling like heart palpitations, like nervousness. 1 up here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1, 1, 1, 1. It just seems like I'm getting there. If one... Oh, both of these would have to be. That is scary. Means that that has to be. Oh, boys, we did it. And girls, if girls are watching. I feel like girls immediately solved it and moved on to my next video. So, holy crap, that was an hour. Oh my gosh. I really, really enjoyed that puzzle, despite how much pain it caused me. I am not going to do anymore. Actually, I am, because there is a 5 pipper in this maze. If I don't do it now, I'll forget. How do I get there? No. Let me out. How do I escape? Do I have to go through the whole maze again? No, that's not fair. I did what you asked. Okay, let's go out through this way and then come back in the normal entrance. And do... You know what? No, there's another one. There's more. There's too many more puzzles for me to do in one video. We're going to end it here. I'm going to say thanks, everyone, for sitting through that. If you genuinely watched me struggle through that whole puzzle, you deserve the Presidential Medal of Honor. But in the meantime, I'm going to go get food because I've been up for several hours now and have not eaten. So thanks for watching. I will see you all in the next video, and have a good day. Bye.